Hey guys, this is Kami Ken, and today I'm going to take you through a little thought experiment. What if Naruto was a webcomic or an indie comic? How would that affect the release, and not only the release, but people's acceptance of the character and the concept as a whole? When I look at Naruto, I think it's just obvious. Everyone should love Naruto. This is the thing that inspired me to start creating manga or start creating comics in the first place. It should be immediately obvious that this is going to be great. This is going to be amazing stuff, and it should be treated with the utmost respect from the first chapter. But in our little thought experiment, if we were to go at the release schedule of a regular webcomic or an indie comic. Let's go with webcomics first. Webcomics are usually, and we're not talking about the webtoons webcomics, we're talking about the old school webcomics that were released on people's personal websites back in the day and still today, that were released like 1 to 3, maybe even 4 if you're really like pushing it, pages per week, where the creator would just kind of do pages on their off period after work and just put out the content that way, where over time, over years, it would build up into something that could be like a side income, but not a full-time thing unless the webcomic itself took off and became this like big thing. How many chapters of Naruto would we get if it was a webcomic? I think if Naruto started when it started, back in, when does it say? Probably around the 1999. Um if it started back then, okay. Let's see. Naruto drawn in 1997, just a year after I was born. Um oh, the final version. Okay, it says the final version debuted in 1999. And so if it started in 1999 at a rate of 4 pages per week, we'd be so cooked. It's not approaching anywhere near. Okay, let's try to actually do the math on this. I'm gonna get my calculator and we're gonna do the math. Oh yeah, my calculator is my phone. Okay, so at a rate of 4 pages per week, 52 weeks per year, 4 times 50, 52 weeks per year. That would be 208 pages per year. And this is going at the maximum. In fact, let's just make it more realistic, where it's 3 pages per week. And that's usually the maximum for most webcomic creators. So 3 times 52, that is going to be 156 pages per year. So 156 pages per year would be about a volume and a half every year coming out of Naruto. This volume, volume 1, ends on page 186. And so that's 9 full chapters of content to produce one volume of Naruto. So let's say we'll multiply that by, from 1999 to the time that Naruto actually ended, 2014, where the manga actually ended. So we're going from 156 to 2014, where the manga actually ended. That would be 15 years. So 15 would be 2,340, and we'll divide that by the amount of pages per volume. So we'll divide that by 180, let's say. That would equal up to 13 volumes of Naruto, produced and created by one creator on a schedule of 3 pages per week where he never gets sick, never has any life issues for 15 whole years. He produces all the way up to the beginning of the Sasuke retrieval arc. We don't even get into the actual into the actual thing. We only get up to the beginning of the Sasuke retrieval arc. And that's only if it was a webcomic that was produced on a consistent basis. If this was an indie comic, we probably wouldn't even see chapter 4 or 5. And that's if the first few chapters of Naruto are interesting enough to merit another creation. If it was black and white, um if it was black and white, just Naruto, like pure Naruto, what it was when it was being created in Shonen Jump, it might be hard to find an audience in America just based on its black and white nature. And it's like it's well written, very well written, and very well drawn. But to find its audience in America, it would be like he would need to have all the resources that he had in Japan to create Naruto, the assistants, the editor, and that kind of thing, to find the audience where it would be placed, because even it being called Naruto wouldn't work in America. It would have to be called Ninja Kid School or something like that. It would have to be called something that is easily understandable on the face of it, so that you would jump into the story. Only something created in Shonen Jump can afford to be called the title of the actual thing. Like, it can only because it has the prestige of being published in Shonen Jump. Only something like that can be afford to be called the titular character's name. Like, okay, Naruto, well, what is it about? It kind of looks like it's about some kids with some weapons. Maybe they're like some type of ninjas or something. Like you'd have to call it something like Ninja School, Ninja Kid School, or something simple and easy to remember. Naruto is easy to remember, but again, it has that backing of Shonen Jump. And if Kishimoto were to try to make something like this in America, he wouldn't have access to Shonen Jump editors. He wouldn't have access to a team. Like, he'd have to come out of his own pocket to create all that energy behind this story, and he'd have to find people who care enough about drawing quality and story quality to create something on the level of Naruto. It would be exceedingly difficult to do something like this by yourself at the same speed as a weekly Shonen Jump author. You'd have to be willingly giving up your own life and your own life force and your own energy to create something like this without having the access to editors who will do all kinds of things on your behalf, so that you have the time and energy to be able to create a comic like Naruto. And then you'd have to there's just no way I can see this going past. It would have to be a monthly series, like Invincible. It would have to be a monthly series published in Image Comics, where it's still creator owned, but it's coming out on a monthly basis, where it's still coming out fast enough for readers to get new material on a consistent enough basis, so that they don't forget about Naruto and what's going on in their world. The reason they publish in Japan like black and white is so that they can publish things a lot faster and get things out a lot quicker. Because if you look at the drawings, they're actually quite simple. They're not super ornate, and they're just enough to tell the story as it needs to be told. And Kishimoto definitely improves more and more over time, but these drawings aren't super ornate like an American comic comic book would be. Um, and that's to save on time and produce things at a quicker rate. Um, and not only that, but when you look at it, Naruto and comics like that in Shonen Jump are basically indie comics. They are basically creator-owned comics where the full idea is created by one person. Like all of it is coming from one mind. Well, the genesis of the idea is coming from one mind where it's like, okay, I have this idea for a ninja themed story and we're gonna make it. It's not based off of any past character. It's not based off of something like Batman or Spider-Man. It's a completely new character in a new world, and the editors there are basically helping you shepherd this new world into life, into other people's conscious awareness, and it's an indie comic that's tailored more for a commercial aim. Like it's tailored so that it can actually sell more volumes, because Kishimoto's raw ideas for creating Naruto would have maybe not been the best to sell. He had certain ideas that were like, oh, we should make the Hokages into animals, and we should have a lot of talking animals and stuff like that. Like they do have that in the series, but it's placed in the right way. And then he didn't really even think of making the jutsu hand signs consistent, or um, even the character of Sasuke. All of that was the suggestion of his editor, which made it into a more coherent story, more of a much more sellable story. Even the Chunin exams he didn't think of. He didn't want to draw all that stuff, but they made him because they were like, yeah, this is what people want to see. And then it became one of the most legendary stories or arcs in the entire series. And none of that stuff could be done on a in an indie comic world, like where you're basically on your own. Like Kishimoto would have to have a YouTube channel where he's just talking and yapping like me, like just saying like, "Oh, okay, yeah, look at my book. It's called Naruto. It's kind of cool. It's about him and his buddy that he's rivals with, and they try to, like he'd have to be shilling his own work all the time just to get the right amount of attention to keep making the work. Like all of the things that I'm doing right now, drawing and making videos, it's what I have to do because I don't have the infrastructure, and the comic industry doesn't have the infrastructure. I feel like it was destroyed, or it was weakened over time, where you can't just sit there and draw. You have to make a whole channel to put yourself out there. And if Naruto was a indie comic or a web comic, it would not even have enough material by this time in 2025 to reach Shippuden. It would be it wouldn't be nearly as long as it is currently. And even if it was a monthly occurring series, it just wouldn't have that same feeling as it was when it was created weekly. It wouldn't have the time and the space to tell the story in the way it needs to be told. And that's what you have when you're a weekly manga series. You have time and space to tell the story how it should be told, rather than how it needs to be told because of page restrictions, or just the time that you have to create and devote towards making stuff. Like you can't live forever. You won't live forever. So making something like this would have to be truncated in some way if you were to make that in America. And that's I don't know, that's basically all I had to say on making this kind of stuff in America. Like even with my own comic, Air Rider, High School Hero. I've made the first two issues, but I can't even get the third issue out because of restrictions on like my time and resources, and the fact that I'm working on a new story, a completely new story with new characters. I have to devote all my time to that, and then put this on the wayside, like to the side, because making that new thing takes precedence. It takes priority over going with something old that or something that I made in the past that doesn't make as much money. Like all that all the stuff that is created that you see is a result of the financial backing that there is to make more of it. And one day I think I'll talk on this channel more about how so much of what you see that is created in the world is because there's money behind it, or there's financial backing allowing the creation of that thing to exist. So yeah, that was my little thought experiment about what if Naruto was an indie comic. And I'll see you in the next one. Peace.